Welcome to Dollars and Cents, a monthly finance podcast presented by Altra Federal Credit Union and the Leighton Podcast Network.
Welcome in. Tammy Guile with Altra Federal Credit Union is with us. Tammy is a mortgage originator at Altra. Tammy, thank you for coming in. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me.
So we wanted to start out with Tammy. This is going to be something that we do on a pretty regular basis here, talking about dollars and cents and everything financial. But before we get into that, we wanted to start with Tammy talking just about Altra Federal Credit Union, what you guys do in the community. You've been in Winona for a long time. Give us the kind of wide scope of what Altra Federal Credit Union does.
So we are member owned. We offer same things as a bank. We are just have a little lower rates and fees. We have competitive services and products, just like all the banks offer. We do financial literacy with children, and we try to help out in the schools, and we help out at steamboat days. We do different things for volunteer services, collecting hats and mittens throughout in the winter months, and we give those back, and we give money back to Ready Set School and different programs like that.
So very involved in the community you guys are. You mentioned it a little bit, Tammy, but what is the difference? Because I actually have always wondered this. What is the difference between a bank and a credit union?
The biggest difference is we're member owned, so we don't have to. We can have cheaper fees and rates, so we don't have all the shareholders and all that stuff because we're all member owned. So I'm a member. I'm a owner of Altra too, and I am employed there.
Yeah, and do credit unions offer all the same things that banks do? Savings account, checking accounts, all of that.
Yep, we have savings accounts, certificates, home loans, car loans. CDs, all the same products.
Retirement accounts, all that kind of stuff.
We have financial advisors at Altra, so if you're even looking to go that route, we have financial advisors that are in the areas, and they can come meet you at different offices, whatever is convenient for you. We have offices in Winona, West Salem, La Crosse, Onalaska, Rochester, and then we have some in Texas and Tennessee as well.
Oh, really? Okay. I didn't realize you guys were out of the Minnesota-Wisconsin area.
Yeah, so kind of started wherever there was a Train plant. That's how Altra started. It was Train Federal Credit Union, and then Altra, it just became Altra, and then so.
That's kind of the history of you guys then, huh?
Yes.
Oh, very interesting. That's fascinating. How has banking in general, credit unions in general, changed over the decades to where we are now?
It used to be, the process I thought used to be a lot easier. You could just, everything was signing. Now we have, everything is electronic,
digital,
so you can seriously get a car and just sign, never come into the bank. You can just sign it, everything electronically.
Yeah.
And even for a mortgage, there's a lot of times where I don't meet the people until the day of closing. If I go to closing, everything, can be done online. So if people don't want to come into the office, we can make it nice and easy. You can sit on your couch and get pre-approved for a mortgage and go out looking for houses, and we meet the day of closing.
Yeah. Does that have its pros and cons?
It does, because I like to be involved with the people and get to know them and kind of talk with them throughout the process.
Yeah.
But if there is also somebody that is maybe living, let's say, in South Dakota, and they're going to move back to Winona, well, they're not having to drive. So, you can make it nice and easy for them to not have to commute.
Yeah. But that personal relationship is missing, I think, in a lot of things in the world now, but certainly in banking. I remember when I was a kid, you had your bank officer that you went in, you had a relationship with that person. They knew you by your face, you knew them by their face. And that's kind of lost now, unfortunately, I think. But what are you going to do? I think, does it make it easier, the process of things like this, whether it's loans or, setting up accounts, does it make it easier for you guys that it is all done digitally, not having to fill out as much paperwork, or do you guys still have to do that on your end?
We do still have to do some of the paperwork, but it does make it a lot easier and more efficient. It's time saving. People aren't, you're not having to have all that paperwork because it's all electronically. And then it's making things kind of on the back end a little bit faster too for like closing. Our closings, they can get packets sent out and all that done really quickly.
I think it's something that people are sometimes concerned about. Is it safe from your experience? Because a lot of people do worry about that, putting their information online like that. Is it pretty safe?
It is. We have a secured site, so where people apply for a loan, that's a secure site. So if they want to upload all their documents, like their pay stubs, W-2s, and all that stuff, they can upload it right to the document, and that's a secured site. So
yeah, sure, that makes sense. With Altra Federal Credit Union in particular, do you have situations where somebody was a member, now their kids are members, now their kids are members? Is it kind of a thing like that?
Yeah, I started before I was in mortgage, I started on the consumer side, so I opened accounts and all that. So I have opened accounts for parents and then their kids, and now I'm helping their kids with doing a mortgage. So it's kind of cool to see all that turn around where, and we started personally, my father-in-law worked at Train. So we've been, since I got married, we were accounts, and then now my daughter has an account with us, right. And so it's just, the trickle effect.
That's very cool. Yeah. Cause I think there are so many banking options out there for people. It's cool to see, a thing where it's kind of a generational thing and it turns over for people like that. But we will want to get into, because Tammy, you are a mortgage originator at Altra Federal Credit Union. And so let's get into that, because mortgages are something that I think scare people sometimes, and houses are obviously usually the biggest purchase people will make in their life, right? It's the thing that people will spend the most money on in their life, and everybody wants to have a nice house, right? Everybody wants to be comfortable, and everybody wants to be in a good neighborhood for their family and have a nice house and a nice place to go home to. So let's get into that, because the mortgage process starts with the pre-approval process, right? And that can start with something called a credit pull. I wonder if you would break down for us, Tammy, what is a credit pull?
Yep. So the first process in getting pre-approved is we get you the application. You can either come into the office and we can sit down and do it together, or else I can send you a link and you can apply right online. Once you fill out all that information, we get the application in the office, and then we do a credit pull. So for that credit pull, we are pulling from all 3 credit bureaus. It is a hard pull, so it will affect your credit score a little bit. But then once we do that, the credit pull is good for 120 days. So we are not going to pull that and keep pulling it on so your credit falls. So we do have that good for 120 days. So then we just look at the application after that, and then we can get you pre-approved. A lot of the realtors are going to want that pre-approval letter before they are going to look at houses with you. Just because the market, the way it is, there's not a lot of houses out there. So they just want that letter. So it's a very big, important first step in the mortgage process, is coming in or getting a hold of me, and I can get you the link to apply online and getting you pre-approved.
So people should get pre-approved before they even think about contacting a realtor.
That's what I suggest. That's your first step, is get in touch with me at Altra, and I can get you pre-approved. The pre-approval is good for 120 days, so you have a good time frame there to find houses, and we're not going to pull your credit again. And then you can go then you can go find a realtor. If they're not working with a realtor, I can give them some suggestions. There's a lot of realtors here in Winona that do a great job, and then we can get them, set up, and then they know how much they can spend and how much they can afford. Before, if they don't get pre-approved, they have no idea what am I looking for? What's even unaffordable, or what do I want for a monthly payment? What works for my budget?
When people are thinking about contacting you guys, getting the credit pull, are they usually already in the house buying mold? Are they already sort of going in that direction, or do some people get pre-approved maybe sometimes too soon and then they're not ready to buy? Do you see that happen? Yep.
I have some people that'll come in and they'll say, I'm looking to buy in a year. Can we just do an application to see what do I need to do? Am I doing everything right? Do I need to pay off some debt? Where am I sitting financially? Because they just have no idea. So other people we've already kind of toured some open houses, and now we found a house that we're looking at, and we want to get pre-approved. So we see it both ways. I'm happy to work with either, because we were kind of chatting a little bit earlier. The schools don't do the teaching you how to build your credit and what you need to do to buy a house. So it's kind of nice if they do come in and be proactive and say, in a year from now, I want to look at a house, and what do I need to do? What do I have to save? What are my steps?
Do you find that some people are intimidated by even just the pre-approval process? Because like we were saying, it just for those of us that have been through it, it's so much paperwork and it just seems daunting and that kind of thing. But it is kind of a necessary evil, I guess. Do you try to sort of comfort people and kind of walk them through that?
I do. I try to tell them, okay, this isn't that hard. It's not that scary. I get it. But you can tell, like, after we pull credit and I'm like, you know what? We're good. This is how much. And you can see kind of like a sigh of relief come off of them. And it's like, okay, see, and I get coming to the bank can be scary. But, you know, I try to make it as easy and fun as possible and, you know, kind of make it enjoyable for them.
With some people who maybe have bad credit or have had some credit problems in the past, how can that affect the pre-approval process?
It can affect it on like their rate. So, you know, rate obviously is based on what your credit score is and just maybe even possibly just if you qualify or not. So that's where I like to be able to help people. I like to say, okay, how about you do this and come back and see me in a few months and, you know, kind of teach them. I feel like that's part of my job is to help people get into a home. You know, that's what I want to do. If it's we have to work on things for a couple months and then let's get you in a home, or, you know, if they're set right away and we can do it right away. But yes, there is ways we can help them and kind of teach them and tell them what to do.
So generally, if somebody has had credit problems or has some debt, they can do some things to maybe alleviate some of that and then come back and see you, and maybe the pre-approval process is a little easier?
Yep. It can be maybe just as simple as maybe they have to pay off a credit card, or there's maybe a collection or something like that. Maybe it's just, hey, let's contact this collection agent and kind of see if they'll help us get this figured out. We can get that figured out. Or maybe, let's maybe we have to take out a type of a loan just to pay off some credit card debt, and then once that loan is paid off, then that's going to help us clear up some debt, and we can get you pre-approved and get you into that house you want.
For some people who are maybe younger, you know, maybe some younger home buyers who don't have a lot of credit, is that sometimes a problem? Because it seems like it would be better to be debt-free, but then a lot of times you want to have some credit, right, to make it look like, or to make it clear that you can pay off things and you have had a credit card or things like that. Is it almost worse to have no credit than maybe bad credit?
It can be in a way, because yes, you do want them to have some credit, and I just don't feel like these young kids are being taught because there's a lot of younger kids now that are coming in to buy houses, and I feel like, oh, they didn't realize, because they are thinking, well, I don't have anything bad, so it's fine. Yeah, I don't have any credit. But yes, it's almost better to, you know, right out of high school, get that small credit card, come into your bank or credit union and get that small credit card and start building your credit up. And, you know, so you have a little something when you are ready to purchase a house.
Yeah, I remember when my wife and I applied for our mortgage, she had never had a credit card. I had had a couple of credit cards when I was in my early 20s that I had then paid off. Neither one of us had student loans. And the person we were working with said, you know, this isn't good. This might be kind of difficult. And we were like, why? We're debt free. We have plenty of savings, you know, so it was kind of a hard concept to understand for us, you know?
It is. And I feel that that's what a lot of people think. They're like, well, I don't have any debt. So why is this a bad thing? You know, we can definitely work with it. There's programs we can put them in, or things we can do, or get them set up with a small credit card. Maybe they're not looking to purchase right away. Maybe it's just like, oh, what do I need to do? So we can get them set up with a small credit card and kind of tell them how to use that and build that credit up. So in 6-9 months, we can get you into looking for a home.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So moving on in the process, once somebody is pre-approved and once they've kind of figured out, you know, what their threshold is going to be, how much they can spend, what kind of house they can afford, when do you get a realtor involved, and do you guys help with that?
That would be the next step. After they're pre-approved, I reach out, or once they're in the office, I'd let them know. I say, have you been working with a realtor, or do you know of any realtors? A lot of people, sometimes they have a realtor before they come see me. Some of them just know. A lot of it is recommendation. So, oh, this person referred this person to me or whatever. If they don't have a referral, I will hand out some cards for them and say, these are realtors I've worked with. You know, definitely they're great. And I always tell them all realtors in Winona are great. You can't really go wrong with any of the realtors. But then they're going to want to get into the realtor, kind of tell them that number that they're looking at, and then that realtor can help them find that house. It's best for them to work with a realtor. They know the market. They know what's out there. A lot of times they know what's hitting the market before we even see it listed on the MLS.
As far as down payments, that's something I think people are always, concerned with, because obviously how much you can put down will affect your monthly payment and everything like that. So people probably want to put down as much as they can. With a down payment, what should people look at? What are the numbers they should crunch? There's a lot of mortgage calculators out there now that I think are good resources for that. But what kind of advice do you give people about the down payment?
So we have a first-time home buyer loan. That is 1% down. It has to be a true first-time home buyer. You can't have had a home at all before that. But we also offer conventional loans with as little as 5% down. And then we do FHA, and that can be 3.5% down. And we do have VA that are, no, you don't have to put anything down. There's some people think that you have to put 20% down. You do not have to put 20% down to get a mortgage. You can put 20% down, obviously, to avoid the private mortgage insurance. But I think that's a little misconception that people think that, I have to have this much down. People don't realize, yes, there is different options. And that's where it's great to come in and sit down and talk and say, this is what I have to put down. How can we work with this? And what can we do?
What are the advantages of putting more down, as much as you can, I guess?
The advantage of, obviously, your monthly payment is going to be less. You can get possibly avoid that private mortgage insurance if you can put more down. So that's always a nice thing. And then, just having the lower affordable monthly payment.
I think, back several years ago when we had the housing bubble and there was a lot of news about predatory loans and people who were just, underwater, people who were being allowed to buy houses they obviously couldn't afford. Do we still see that happening, Tammy? Are there some safeguards in place to avoid that? And how do you approach that? How do you advise people to say, this is kind of where you're at? I understand maybe you want a more expensive house, but you can't afford it. That's not always an easy conversation, I would imagine, to people. But what kind of safeguards and advice do you give on that front?
So I kind of, look at their debt to income, and I talk with them. I want to have a conversation with them, get to kind of know them in that meeting we're having. That's where I like the face-to-face conversations, where you can kind of tell when you're telling them, okay, your monthly payment is going to be $1,300, and they're looking at you like, ooh, this is scary. So then that's when I come back and say, okay, what is a comfortable payment for you guys? We don't want you to be house poor. Do you guys like to take vacations? We want you to be able to take a vacation, or, maybe they say I go visit my family up north every year. So I want to make sure they're comfortable to be able to do that with their family.
On that front, do you also talk with people about, hey, you might have to stop buying this or stop this purchase in order to, make your payment on this house, especially if you want a house that is at that price? Do you advise people in that way? Yes,
we do sit down and talk about, okay, there's these things. Are you going to be getting a new car? And, because maybe you can tell, they're a person that gets a new car every year. Okay, well, if we're going to get this more expensive house, we're not getting a new car every other year. You guys are going to kind of have to stick with, what is comfortable for you guys? What is your lifestyle? That's the biggest question we have to kind of ask, because we don't want them to change everything drastically. We want them to be comfortable with what they're doing.
Is there one type of loan that is more popular or more, prevalent than the others, or does that really just vary and depend on what the people's financial wherewithal is?
The conventional loan is obviously the most popular, just because with FHA and VA, there's kind of different things you can have with the house. They're government loans, so they're a little bit pickier, where the conventional is kind of a more easy go-to loan. That's kind of the one that the realtors are like, are they pre-approved conventional? Because it just makes life easier for everybody. It's not as, you don't have the government rules and regulations that you have to follow by.
Here in Winona, we're obviously a college town, and so there are a lot of people who own homes that they then rent out or rent out parts of those. Is that any different if people are purchasing a home in order to, maybe rent it out? Maybe it has different apartments in it. Is that any different as far as the mortgage and realtor process?
The biggest difference with that is just the down payment. Being it's going to be a rental and you're going to be getting income producing off of it, you do have to put a bigger down payment down.
Okay, gotcha. So let's move on to the payments. When you have your monthly payment, what is involved in that? What is included in that? Because, again, for those of us who already own homes, you get that bill sometimes and trying to read through it, it looks like French to a lot of us. So, there's obviously a lot going on there. But break down for us, if you could, Tammy, what's included in monthly mortgage payments.
So the monthly mortgage payment includes your principal and interest payment. And then it also includes your taxes, your property taxes, and then your home insurance. And then if you do have to have private mortgage insurance, that would be included in there as well. The hardest thing for people is in Winona County, they send you your property tax bill. So a lot of people get those property tax bills in the mail in say March, and they think, oh, I have to pay these. So then it's like, then they'll call in and just which I'd rather have them call in and ask questions. That's what I'm here for. So don't pay that, because it's hard to get that money back from the county if you've had already paid that in there. But that is all included. So they don't, basically all people have to worry about is their own utilities that they have to pay for.
Who needs private mortgage insurance and who does not? Because not everybody needs it, right?
Right. If you don't put down at least 20%, then you're going to have it.
So that's just a safeguard because you're not putting as much down? Is that kind of the idea behind that? Yes,
that is correct. And then with our first-time homebuyer program, we do waive that private mortgage insurance on that program as well. So there's some good program or good little perks with that first-time homebuyer program. So if there's first-time homebuyers out there, definitely look me up.
Okay. And with property taxes, you say, you receive that assessment from the county. We hear a lot of people gripe sometimes, I guess, about property taxes. They do fluctuate, they do change. What goes into property taxes and kind of the fluctuations with those? And do you get calls from your customers saying, hey, what's going on here? My property taxes are up or my property taxes are changing. What determines that, Tammy?
The market. It's, the market is what determines where the taxes are, the sales in that area, kind of. But yes, members do call and yes, because all of a sudden my payment's going up $20, $30, and why is it going up? And it's not us. It's not the credit union that does that. That's the county. They come out and they will ask. They come out every year and they'll just drive around and they will ask. They stopped at our house and asked if they could come in to look, and then if they come in, then they'll assess your value and then your taxes change, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's something that I think frustrates people, but it's a necessary evil that I think we have to go through. Tammy Guile is a mortgage originator with Altra Federal Credit Union, joining us here on Dollars and Cents. One word that we hear a lot when it comes to mortgages, when it comes to home buying, Tammy, is escrow. What is escrow? Can you explain that?
So escrow is your taxes and insurance. So that means that we escrow for you. We pay those. You don't have to worry about it. I have to say, somebody that almost has their mortgage paid off, I would escrow forever because I don't want to have to worry about paying my taxes and insurance. So it's a nice thing. It's at no cost. We just do it. It's in your payment. We take care of it for you, so you never have to worry about it. If you do switch insurances, that's perfectly fine. Just let us know, and then we can get that all updated for you.
Is it different now, Tammy? I think back to when I was a kid or when I was growing up, usually people bought one house and they stayed in that house for a long time, maybe for their whole lives. They raised their kids there, they stayed there, into their later years. Is that different nowadays? It seems like people, the starter home, right? People start with the home, then they upgrade. Is that different now? Do people nowadays tend to own several homes during the course of their life?
Yeah, we are seeing now, I am seeing since more of COVID, people are buying a second home and maybe out on the river or like in Hayward or, northern Minnesota, somewhere there. And they're having that so that's going to kind of be their getaway for the summer months or winter months if they're into the winter sports. So more people are doing that. You are seeing people buying investment properties to rent out and, get a little extra cash flow that way. So I think people have just changed. It's changed a little since COVID. People
wanting a little more recreation or like a fun house to go to, right?
Yes. Just wanting something a little different.
Yeah. When we talk about the housing market here in Winona, it seems like there's kind of a contrast in the market here. You have a lot of houses on the lower end of the price range, and then some in the valleys and other parts of town and out in the county, I guess, that are maybe a bit more expensive. How is the housing market right here, right now in Winona, greater Winona County? How is the market right now, Tammy?
I think more houses are being listed, which is helping, and more of them are coming in that middle range where we seem to have, that's where the buyers are looking. They're looking not in that higher range. You got your first-time home owners that are looking in the lower range, but that middle one, it seems like that's where everybody wants them. And it does seem like there is a few more starting to get listed now. I think with school being out, graduation parties are kind of wrapping up. So I'm hoping we're going to see more listed now.
And that's good, right? Because there's been a dearth of homes, I think, in that middle range, right? So you have people who maybe don't want the fixer-upper or the starter home, but they don't want the really big house. You need those houses in the middle, right?
Yes, that's what we need. Yes, because you're right. People either don't have the funds to, I'm going to buy a house for such a dollar amount, and I don't want to throw in $20,000, $30,000 more to fix it up. I want to have a house that maybe I just have to do new painting or new little updates, nothing major.
Right. Okay. And Tammy, if people want to get in touch with you at Altra Federal Credit Union, want to learn about mortgages or anything else, how can they get in touch with you guys?
So my direct line is 507-452-1134, or my email is tgile@ultra-fc.com.